It's time for the podcast, which is all about the world of marketing on television through TV shopping networks and infomercials. Are we on the air? I'm your host, Sean Wilsey, and for over 29 years, I've hosted shows on cable shopping networks, generating hundreds of millions of dollars in sales. And now I want to be your guide into this world, explaining how it works, why it works, what doesn't work, and introduce you to the people who are making it the success that it is today. In the television shopping universe, fame can be fleeting. Vendors come and go, sometimes at the drop of a hat, and it's not unusual to see vendors and guests make the circuit of all the shopping networks, sometimes several times over. For Manuela Marcheggiani, one network, albeit under different names, has been her home since 1997. With success like that seemingly so difficult to come by, what is she doing with the Isomers brand that others are not? Well, we're going to hopefully get to the bottom of that question as we welcome the CEO and co-founder of Isomers Laboratories, Manuela Marcheggiani, to Are We on the Air today. Hello, Manuela. I am so happy to have you on this show.
I know. I'm so happy to be here too, Sean. It's been so long. I mean, you and I are friends, from way back.
I was just talking to Marvin Siegel last night, recording the show that, as people are hearing this, is already aired. When I asked Marvin in an interview, actually this would have been the shows we did a few weeks ago, I said, who do you admire? Who is a guest on air today at any of the networks that you really think is doing an amazing job without missing a beat? He said you. He said Manuela Marcheggiani. So you obviously are doing something right. Before we get into what you're doing right, for someone who's listening that doesn't know, how did Isomers begin? And by the way, what does the name mean? You answer two-parter, you pick which order you want to go in, but how did it begin and what does the name mean?
Okay, well, how did Isomers Skincare, Isomers Laboratories begin? So it began over 30 years ago, truly. It began in Toronto with Darish and I, and we were cosmetic chemists and scientists, but it began out of a need. So it began because I had I had horrific skin, I had allergies, I had welts, they thought I had lupus, literally.
Wow.
Living in Toronto, we have bad weather, right? So we have bad winters. And if I was walking down, and I know you're going to laugh, but if I was walking down Bloor Street in the cold, and then I popped into Honested's,
I love this. I can relate. I know where those places are. Yes.
Right. Exactly. If I popped into Honested's, which then had the heat on, you would look at me like 1 minute after being in the building and think, who the heck is that? Because my face would actually morph.
Wow.
Like it would change. It would swell up. It would change. It hurt. It reminds me of a joke, but anyways, I won't go there, but it hurt. And in the summertime, if I went into a lake or had ice cream or whatever, I would get, again, hives, welts, bumps. So and then I would end up with scars. I would end up with scabs. So I had a lot of stuff going on, and a part of it, I don't know, was immune system or whatnot. Anyway, long story short, nobody really knew what was going on, and there wasn't a product that I was breaking out constantly, right? So and I was picking, of course, because why not? That's what you do, right? We didn't have, TV. No, we didn't have Netflix, but I was picking, and so what happened is I would go first, the drugstores, and then the department stores, and then the doctors. But even then, it was very difficult. I mean, nobody knew what to do, and everything I did only made it worse. And then I started doing my own home remedy kind of stuff, which made it even worse. So then I ended up hiding my face, putting on a lot of makeup to hide it, that Clearasil, and then the colored one. And then, there was a formula that they used for burn victims. I forget what it was called. I used to even put that on to hide what my skin looked like. And in university, I mean, Darius was doing his thesis on the 11-cis retinol, which is an isomer. So here's how the story comes together, right? So vitamin A or retin A is also, the retinol is also part of your eye. So it's also part of vision. So vitamin A can be used, or vitamin A has elements in vision, but it also has elements in skin repair or epithelial repair. So basically taking a different molecular shape, taking a different isomer, you get a different outcome. That's really how the science is working. And anyways, he was doing his thesis on the 11-cis retinol. And because how you turn that molecule around would affect how you see, he had this brilliant idea that, maybe if it's a different molecule, maybe if we look at skincare differently, maybe we can actually create something for you.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And so we went back into the stacks. Like that time we didn't have computers. I mean, we had typewriters, right?
Yes.
Okay. So we went into the stacks, a medical science building in Toronto, and we pulled out the stacks and we started doing research and we started looking at isomeric chemistry, stereochemistry. So basically the integrity of molecules and what they look like, and pH. And we created a formula based on a pH that is acidic, keeps the skin friendly bacteria, and also has antioxidants in it, which was quite revolutionary, and also had acids in it, which was people weren't talking about. And we created this thing, and by trial and error, I mean, it wasn't the first one, it was like, the 50th one, my skin started healing and improving.
Wow.
To the point that when people would look at me, they would say, what do you use? Like, what have you done? And
right.
And then we'd say, well, something else I'm something we made ourselves. Oh my gosh, I have. And all of a sudden people with the grossest ailments came forward. Can you fix this? Can you fix this? Can you fix this? And so we were whipping up batches in using my mother's blender in Dersh's bachelor apartment at Spadina and Bloor. And that's how Isomers was born. But then it's like, what do we call it? And what do we do? And what do we know about retail, or what do we know about business? We know nothing. We were just creating. It was a love project, right?
Yeah.
It was something out of necessity. It was something out of, it was designed to fix my problem so I could actually get my life together and move forward and become a journalist or become a veterinarian. It was never to stop here and then start helping everybody else. And that's really how Isomers began.
Is that what a young Manuela wanted to do? Journalist, veterinarian?
Yes, I wanted to be a journalist. Prime Minister was also there, snuck in there.
Yeah.
I wanted to be, Dr. Prime Minister. But yes, that is what I wanted to do. Yeah.
What a detour your life took. And then you start the company, and somehow you wound up on a network that at the time was called Value Vision, based out of Minneapolis. How did you wind up at Value Vision?
All right, so here we go. Life is so interesting. So while I was finishing off my studies and we were working on, at University of Toronto, my mother got very, very sick. And so she had nodules in her throat, and they were cancerous nodules. And so, we didn't know which way this was going to go. My mother's fine. She survived. So I don't want to take people down that road. But
good.
But the process was, because she was, they took out her thyroid. She had to have radiation treatment. She was undergoing some severely radical things at the time. It was not the time to launch a career. Right. So I was finishing off my university, and it was like, okay, I don't want to start a real job, because what if something happens and I have to leave? Like it was just not the right time. So I literally wanted to do something, because I couldn't sit in the hospital with her all the time. And I wanted to feel like I had a little bit of light in my life. So I was reading newspaper back then, reading the newspaper, and a brand new business was looking for customer service reps. It was called the Canadian Home Shopping Network, and it wasn't open yet.
Oh, wow.
So
I haven't heard that term in forever. That's what TSC, as it's now known, used to be called, right?
Right. So it was John Goldberg. He was starting out he had just, he was starting out the Canadian Home Shopping, because he basically took the concept from Florida, from St. Pete's, and he was now bringing a franchise to Canada. And I went and I said, oh, yeah, customer service looks good. And they're like, you're a university grad. You're not going to do customer service.
I'm answering phones. What are you talking about?
And I was like, I don't even know who you are. And they said, well, this is our concept. We're going to sell stuff on TV. And at that time we had still frame. So we weren't even live, because in Canada, because of CRTC, we only had so many frames per second. So we actually looked like, we were like moving it like art.
The CRTC is their version of the FCC in Canada. And so the rule was you couldn't do live video like you see on TV. It was a series of freeze frames.
Exactly. So it was a series of freeze frames, and we had to do it. And they had to do it in both languages, both official languages. So they actually had a booth with Now with COVID, we all have
yeah,
have
true.
dividers.
Yeah. Right.
But it was a booth, and then they would have two hosts, and they would simultaneously talk about the product in English and French, right?
Wow,
So anyways, I came on board when it was at the beginning of that, and they basically are like, oh, we need somebody to like, you have like a science degree and you have mathematics and you have, some marketing. And they were like, maybe you can, it actually was geography, not even marketing, because, that mayor prime minister thing was really, really something I did want to do.
There, yeah.
Yeah. So they said, okay, so here's inventory and this is what we're trying to do. So I was like, you're just putting items up on a screen, and like, how does it like, and so to understand that, I ended up, long story short, running the in-house marketing. So I basically ran everything like what you would do on the programming, what they call planners and programming now.
Sure.
So basically I would select the inventory, then I would have a conversation with the host before the show, and then the host and I would design their show. Because remember, it was a free-for-all show. You could have an item or two of every category in the show. They were not programmed as they are now.
Right.
So it was more democratic in the sense of, what does the audience like to see? And we're going to show it. And then what's the new stuff we have? We got to sprinkle that in. Mm-hmm. And then what is the goal that we have? So many dollars per minute, or the day's goal. And then you can't have every show look exactly alike, right? And the host would have 3 hours. So the host would I would literally give them, I don't know, 30 items.
Right.
And then they would decide what was their open, their middle, their close. And they would decide. And then basically watching the screen, you would know when to go on to your next item or come off of an item, right? And we would have these conversations. So you programmed and planned your own shows. And I would help. And then I created a computer program using Fortran at the time to basically... Remember?
Yes, I haven't heard that term in forever. Yes.
Yes. I'm dusting off all my recent vocabulary. We would pick I created this thing so that we could sift through thousands of products of inventory based on dollar per minute, right?
Yes.
So right away, you can, by dollar per minute, not alphabetical and not price point, but by dollar or margin dollar per minute, which is even more important, right?
Yeah.
You'd be able to sprinkle those items in a 24-hour period. So you kind of knew where your day would go. And then you would start going into your B's and your C's and your D inventory, and then the Hall of Shame inventory, and sprinkle that through, right?
Hall of Shame inventory, yes.
Well, that happens, right?
Oh, great term.
So that's where I got my start. So long story short, I was in TV shopping, so I helped with founding it in Canada, and I did that for a couple of years. And, I got the tap on the shoulder of, well, why don't you go on the other side? And I was like, yeah, because I'm a chemist. I'm a thing. I know this. I love, to me, TV shopping is like my Vegas. I'm not a gambler. But I love the business. I loved when people talked and you watch how the screen reacted. I love seeing that connection between vocabulary and item and story and people's reactions and how it touched people. I love seeing that. And I love that when you did something good, people would really react well. And if they didn't like it, they voted. They're constantly voting. And so I think it's so much more rewarding because you're in the moment. And you really are affecting people. Like, you're entertaining them, you're educating them, you're touching them, you're mobilizing them, you're servicing them. There's so many things, and you're learning from them all the time. And I thought, what better way of talking about my story? Because I had nobody helped me, right? Darish and I helped ourselves. But we were really lucky that we were educated and we had access to medical stacks. And then we had access to, because Darish also was working as a organic chemist in the pesticide industry. And so he had access to ingredients and knowing how to formulate ingredients in water and oil soluble vehicles. So this is very important, right? Yeah. Because when you think skincare, you're thinking that's a sexy formula. And you may think, oh, a product for fleas is not so sexy, but
Right.
the product for fleas or flies is even more difficult. Think about Minnesota.
Yeah.
Mosquitoes, bite me. I mean, everybody talks about mosquitoes
Sure.
in Minnesota, right? So when you create a pesticide for those mosquitoes, you have to be able to sprinkle it onto the water, but it can't be water soluble, right? It has to be water soluble, but it has to have an oil membrane so that it can actually stay there long enough to affect the larvae. So it's actually more complicated than skincare.
Wow. This is why I love
I know
this
we
woman.
digress, but
Well, no, and I knew this was going to happen, but we're going to learn so much about science from someone. But you do it when you educate. You do it scientifically, but still, it converts back to a layman's mind. We're able to relate because you use analogies, you use comparisons or metaphors that we can relate to, and so the science is delivered in that manner. Because I've always wondered, because you're a scientist, you're on TV, you're selling skincare. Did you ever get any pressure from any buyer or corporate vice president or anyone to say, Manuela, you're great, but you need a celebrity. You need a model. We need to have that pretty face out there that is glamour in Hollywood. Did you ever get that?
Always the beginning when we first decided to do our own product and say the story. First of all, they said to me, you can't do it. It needs to be a celebrity. The other part was, your name, Marcheggiani. Are you kidding me? That's not going to fly. Like, can you change your name? I'm like, what? So first of all, they didn't want me. They wanted a celebrity. Second of all, they didn't, like my name. They actually wanted me to go on as, what was it? I think it was Manny Marks or something like this. It was just, I was just like mortified. Like, what? Yeah. Marks, which is like, Marcheggiani's fine. And the thing I was also told was, do not talk scientifically.
Wow.
Do not mention an ingredient. Do not, because one was, and they always use the terminology she, right? In that day, she doesn't care, or she won't get it, or it goes over her head, or, it's and I would stand there going, what you're telling me is confusing me, because I care, I get it. And I know that if I'm not unique, I am just like I don't feel unique at all. I just feel very lucky that I'm in a certain environment. And because I'm in an environment, I can speak about my environment and share my experience. But I don't think I am unique in the sense that I needed information. I had a problem. I didn't know where to turn to. And the people who did advise me were either out for themselves, like to take money from me, or didn't know and they just tell you something. I would have done anything at that time because I went through so much, mental health wise. We talk about this now, but at the time I went through so much self-loathing that I wish I had somebody who was telling me the truth. So my mission was always like, if I had the opportunity, if I could be on a speaker's corner, like what I think TV shopping was, I wanted to say the truth, the science, the journey, the opportunity. So everything I did on air, and I know this, I would always say, why is this important? This is what it's going to do, and this is why you need it, or this is what it's not going to do. And then I would show you proof. And that was my entire thing, is because I felt I needed that. And I felt that this was the best way to do it without being wowed by, can we say bullshit?
Yes, we can. We can say it here.
Okay. Yes. Yeah. Okay. Wowed by bullshit. So I always had such high respect for the TV shopping machine or entity, because it does give somebody who wants to be authentic such a great platform and opportunity. And I know now, now I think it's actually funny, because now you see that there's all these trade shows and there's all these indie brands and entrepreneur and women first and rah, and we changed the world and all this. And I was like, we were doing that 30 years ago. We were doing that 25 years ago. We were. I was a female entrepreneur, talking science, self-funded, my own manufacturer, and then, direct to consumer.
Yeah. And I want to I want to talk more about that in a little bit because I think there's some important conversation to have there. But just staying with isomers and your product for a moment, what makes a good TV product?
What
Not
makes a good
necessarily
TV
isomers,
product?
anything in general. It doesn't even have to be skincare, but what makes a good TV product?
I think, okay, well, there was always at the beginning when they're talking about a good TV product had to be, it had to have a wow factor. There has to be a wow. You have to be able to show something because TV's visual. I guess you needed to be able to show a visual or show a before and after, show a difference, make a difference, explain a problem, solve a problem, and also solve that problem in a way that is very beneficial to someone. So a good TV product does that. A good TV product answers it's a solution to your problem. And it does it in a and you understand how it does it. That's what I think. And it has to be visual.
Have you had something where you thought, oh man, this is going to be gold, greatest thing ever, and it failed miserably?
On my own products?
Yes.
Yeah, a lot of time. Absolutely. That's happened over and over again. I mean,
wow.
It happens a lot. It happened a lot, especially in the beginning, because for us, especially for what we were doing, people liked makeup, people liked magic, and I always said I wasn't the esthetician magician. So I was very, very, and we know what that means. We're not going to go there, but because I wanted to, because we didn't doctor anything up and we stayed true to science, and science is boring. I mean, science can be boring in the sense of, we're just showing you what is, and we're not going to create, and we're not going to use magic, if you will. Because we did that, a lot of times people would not get it. They wouldn't understand. Maybe we were a little bit too advanced, and we would actually have to come back again and learn how to explain. So yes, there's a few times where things would be too complicated of a problem or too complicated of a formula, and it would fail because I hadn't figured out how to break it down and make it very, very understandable. Because I really think that that's part of the connection and the relationship. So sometimes and also there was times where people really believed mainstream things to be true that are not true. Mm-hmm. And, I would want to, champion the truth, and fighting that was hard sometimes. And I couldn't do it successfully.
Do you remember a specific moment when you realized you've been at Value Vision for a while that, wow, this is actually working? We're going to be a success with this. Was there a specific moment, or did it just kind of always build up?
No, there was a specific moment. I will tell you, this is going to sound so weird,
boy.
But okay, here we go. So we started, one of the very first formulas was C11393. I think that was the Fast Lift Eye Serum. And that's the item code. It was either the Fast Lift Eye Serum or the Perfect Body Solution. And I still think we use that inventory number at Shop HQ, right? So it shows you how far back we go. But this was a formula. It was the Fast Lift Eye Serum. And I had come down to be on air, and we were now operating. We graduated from the bachelor apartment to my sister-in-law's basement, right?
Is that a true story? Seriously?
True story.
Oh my gosh.
True story. And we had the vats there and we made a clean room. I think Dexter took a lot of learning from us, because we used to create rooms like that. We had plastic down everywhere, and then we would put our equipment in there. And at that time, Darish and I were working full time as well, because we never went to the bank. We self-funded, right? So we would I remember buying a drum of ingredient and thinking it's going to take us 20 years to go through this. And now we do like 10 drums a day, sure. Like that same ingredient, right? Yeah. But we had made, okay, I think 500 eye serums, and we shipped them down to Minnesota, okay? And I went on air, and I'm thinking, that's going to be like, I'm going to have to come for like 5 or 6 months, because I had no idea, right?
Yeah.
And I remember the first time I went on air, and I went on air with Skip, we did 75 in the first 10 minutes. And then I was like, wow. And I remember 75 times 30 equals, and then took off half of that for taxes and took off whatever for a thing, and thinking, oh my God, if we keep this up, we might make like $40,000 this year. And that was earth shattering. That was like, oh my God. I remember crying thinking, oh, this is going to be great. I'll have an act like, wow. Right. And then what happened was, Sean, the next show I went up and we sold out. And then Kim Patterson came to us and said, I want you to go on. And I was like done for the day. Like it was 2 10, 15-minute segments.
Kim was one of the buyers. People should know.
Well, one of the buyers. And she said, can you stay and can they make more? And can you guys ship it in a couple of days? And we were like, what do you mean more? And she goes, yeah, we're thinking another 2,000-3,000. Well, long story short, we did about 5,000 that first time. And then it just went crazy from there. Yeah. So yeah, we knew it was working. And then there was the other time where we launched True Story after I had Keon, my son, who's 23 now. I had taken him to the zoo and I had seen another child that was not as blessed as we were. And it made me think about, when are things perfect and when are cells perfect and uncompromised? And, when do things fall apart? Like, it was just like one of those kind of questions. Like, I guess a mother looks at something so beautiful and you think, how blessed are you, kind of, and you want this for everybody, And I came back to the lab after that and created Age Zero DNA, which was our Pure, our resurgence formula. And I told the story about it, and it was for menopausal or for women who have hormonal issues, because I was just having a baby, so you have hormone issues at that time too, and your skin does funky stuff. And because we had isolated this ingredient, it was $65 for an ounce, and it sold so fast that G. McCaffrey came running down. Like, I think we sold, I don't know, I think we did over $500,000 on that one product with that one story. And we're still, to this day, 23 years later, it's one of our iconic formulas because we did it right, Sean. I mean, we had the genistein in there. We had the isoflavones. I mean, the science, we never wavered from the science. It was opening up that world to people and explaining to them the potential, and then giving it to them in a pure format, and it worked. And so, yeah, I remember feeling the heat in the studio and watching the lines just light up. Even Laura Duffick was doing the show with me. She started sweating because she's like, oh my God, everybody loves your formula and they love your story. And we knew it was going to, like, and Don McCaffrey, it was not McCaffrey. What was his name? Don. Oh, he was so funny. Don Massey. Don Massey at the time. Do you remember him?
I haven't thought of him in forever. Yes.
Don Massey came running in too and saying, do you got any more of that soy stuff?
And unfortunately, that's where we're going to have to stop things for the moment. Manuela, we will continue on our next show, where I want to get into your thoughts on what makes a good host, good guest too for that matter, but also how you balance the whole work-life thing, raising a family, and then all the traveling you had to do the live show. So we'll chat about that on the next show. I hope you will check me out on Twitter and Facebook, where you can find me. Just use my name, ShawnWilsie, Sean Wilsey, and on Instagram, @SWilsey. Thank you for all of your 5-star reviews as well. I certainly do appreciate those, and thank you for taking the time for downloading this edition of our We on the Air. This has been a King Bobby production.
Yes, I know, Travis. That's why we give such bargains.